Joining us for more is Mr. S Gurumurthy, editor of Thuglak. Mr. Gurumurthy, thank you so much for speaking to Times Now, sir. Your first thoughts on these protests that have taken the national capital by storm? The NEET leak has happened. Students and activists are on the streets demanding accountability. Do you believe that this is a wake-up call for the government to take sufficient action?
Actually, first I want to know if it is a student protest. The man who started it was neither a student nor Gen Z, they call it. I have seen 4 important agitations in my life. One is the anti-Hindi agitation which took place in my place. Second is the Bihar movement, a genuine student youth movement. The next is the ASU movement in Assam against the infiltrators. The fourth is the Anna Hazare agitation. You can see how these 4 movements took shape. They were all voluntary. And no one, forced it on them. And there was no social media at that time to gather people. People came on their own. Of course, anti-Hindi agitation was started by a very difficult political party, and so it turned violent. Bihar movement was never a violent movement because it was led by one of the most noble persons, Jayaprakash Narayan. Assam movement was a genuine students' movement. It was subjected to violence. It did not cause violence. Anna Hazare movement was led by a noble man. It was completely voluntary, no violence. Except that when Baba Ramdev took the stage, there was violence, and violence was by the police. So in describing an agitation, we should describe what that agitation is. So my feeling is that it is an agitation. But agitation by who? And 20 days, they were not able to gather crowds in spite of all the food and sweets and everything that they gave. But in the last day, when the movement was about to fail, the political parties stepped in. And the kind of people who participated in it. And you have seen the videos. And to say that it is something which is apolitical, that it is students, that it is genuine, that it is voluntary, it is a faceless movement. To say that it is an agitation, that people are taking to streets and the people who agitated had not even entered college, I think it is anarchy. This can be done by anybody today. And in capital, in 2020 what happened in the CJP Protest, anybody can cause hangama, anarchy. But how do you look at it? So I think the media is also failing to build a proper narrative about it. And anybody can build a narrative today. And of course, the opposition parties have joined together, see the way the opposition leader behaved. And anybody can do it. The BJP can do it much better if the Congress is in power. Is this the way democracy has to be led in a country in which there is parliament is meeting? The opposition is there. Opposition is not a small opposition. It's a very large opposition. In fact, the ruling party is running a coalition government. It doesn't have even majority on its own. But why don't you trust the parliament to do the job? Who is somebody who is coming from America announcing an agitation? And we are giving so much validity to it. It is not legitimate to call for such an agitation and for the media or even the public discourse in India. I don't think it has been fair in its assessment of this agitation.
Okay. Mr. Gurumurthy, I'll just tell you what I saw, because I've been on ground a few times to Jantar Mantar and, in central Delhi, Raisina Road, etc., where these protests were taking place. I saw there were a large number of students that were there. And there is, of course, definitely a strong possibility, as you say, that lumpen elements, perhaps inspired by political parties, one cannot deny that, because there's been open support coming in from various opposition parties who've come. And of course, violence has happened. In fact, our reporters have been at the ground. They have been suffering at the hands, of these lumpen elements. They've been beaten up. We've issued statements to condemn this, and this is completely condemnable. But, the big question that the opposition is raising and the protesters, the students are raising, is what about the violence that has happened from the other side? Because they are putting out videos which they claim is of police excess upon the violent attacks that is happening on them, which is the protesters. What do you believe, sir, in this context?
Tell me, parliament is yards away. If the police doesn't stop them and some few hundred of them enter parliament, what will happen? They are peaceful protesters. You can't shoot them. They are not terrorists. But some terrorists can join in it. Can you deny that there is a possibility of some human bomb getting into and going? What are we talking? The parliament is meeting, it is capital, and they have to be stopped. How to stop them? When a wave of 1,000 people come, you will kiss them. Naturally, you will beat them. And to say it is excess, I can understand if it is in Ramlila grounds and the police is beating them. It is yards away from parliament. If it is not stopped, 500 people come inside and do hangama. What will happen to the government? Even to what will happen to the opposition party leaders? I think we are missing the geography where the whole thing is taking place. Once you admit lumpen elements had come into it, it has ceased to be an apolitical movement, a student movement, a youth movement. It was never. A large number of students may have come and gone, but they were not agitating. They were, of course, they were affected by the cancellation of the NEET. But I tell you, the most important thing is not that the NEET leak took place, that it was detected and immediately examinations were held. And before the agitation started, the student had started joining the colleges. Actually, governance does not mean that there is no wrong at all. Governance means when a wrong takes place, how do we react to it, respond to it? I think the government has responded with alertness, which is appreciable. Instead of saying that why the leak took place, in Rajasthan the leak took place, and Priyanka Gandhi explained where does the result leak doesn't take place. I agree, but she should use the same logic here also. There cannot be one logic for Rajasthan leak, another logic for NEET. NEET is a massive examination.
Absolutely.
And there is a lot of money in it. So obviously there will be some risk. The risk has happened. But the most important thing is it was remedied is more important.
Right. No, I completely agree with you. There can be no hypocrisy. If you're on the issue of paper leak, the principle has to be same. But let me come across to the Education Ministry in just a moment. I want to come back to the first point which you raised of national security. Of course, Parliament, all these institutions are symbols of our constitutional democracy, and certainly they have to be safeguarded. There is no two ways about it. There cannot be a debate about it. But in that same spirit, might I ask, where was the failing on part of our police and law and order machinery? Because they picked up Sonam Wangchuk on Saturday. Surely they could have done the same to dissipate the protests from Jantar Mantar the previous day on Sunday, when they know that there is a Sansad Chalo march that has been called, when they know that there is a social media campaign to mobilize people. Surely they could have done a lot more. Eventually they switched off networks, they shut down the protest area. This could have been done maybe 18, 20 hours earlier.
See, I agree with you. There has been some intelligence failure about the size of the crowd. In fact, a newspaper, a responsible newspaper has brought out a proper perspective about it, that the number of policemen were far, far outnumbered by the crowd. Obviously, there has been a failure. But that doesn't mean that the failure doesn't mean that the government has done a wrong thing. That failure has to be independently inquired into. Can we deny that Parliament cannot be subjected to a mass invasion in which any human bomb can go and demolish the Parliament? Can we deny that? Can police take that risk? In fact, the smaller the police, the action will be more fierce. If the police force was large, maybe the action would not have been. But once there is violence that justifies police violence, if there is no violence at all, if the police does something, in the case of ASU, in the case of Bihar agitation, the police did the violence. And at that time, there was no, I was a participant in Bihar agitation. At that time, there was no social media, there was no television. It is all those who saw and reported. In those days, to report against the government was a terror, except the Indian Express, nobody was doing it. So we must understand that we are all responsible people. How to characterize an agitation, how to frame an issue, how to justify something, that this must have been, in fact, there should have been more force used. You cannot, because it is a matter of Parliament. And the fundamental question remains that the opposition parties which are supporting the agitators outside, then what are they in the Parliament for? What are they in the Parliament for? Then they should resign from the Parliament, go and agitate. You see, when Arvind Kejriwal met me before the big fast, I asked him the same question. He said the opposition is also corrupt, ruling party is also corrupt. Then are you going to create a revolution in this country? He had no answer. And I told him, ultimately, you will enter politics, which he did. Actually, I wrote all this in a newspaper article. I tell you, all these people ultimately have a hidden intention. And the hidden intention gets exposed one day or the other. In 2020, anti-CAA agitation, you know what happened? The hidden intention was not to reverse the CAA effort. The return that was to show to the whole world the country is on fire when President Trump was here, and it did happen. But I think the government must identify all the mischief makers, because there are hundreds and hundreds of CCTV and other videos in operation. Immediately they must arrest all the mischief makers. If the policeman had done anything wrong, punish the policeman. But it is not to say because the policeman have done something wrong, the wrongdoers must go unpunished.
And Mr. Gurumurthy, I'm just going to go back to your timeline because it's rife with a lot of insinuations, including the comparisons that are being drawn to Nepal, to Bangladesh, etc. What makes you think that this is a regime change operation? Because, the argument of those who are protesting will be that it's trivializing the core issue of, issues that impact on students, such as NEET, such as the CBSE papers, etc. And what makes you think that this would even be possible in today's India?
You see, regime change in India is not an easy thing. But anarchy is. If there is anarchy and the government's image is affected abroad, see the kind of news reports that are coming in foreign magazines and other media. It is to bring down the credibility of the government. Regime change doesn't mean that you remove a government and bring in another government. If the government loses its credibility, it is seen as not being able to control the agitators. And this parliament is at risk and the parliament is invaded. This kind of thing is sufficient for a regime to lose its credibility. That was the attempt. I have analyzed Nepal and I have analyzed Bangladesh. They had nothing to do with Gen Z. I have analyzed Nepal, which was purely the expatriates of Nepalese who had gone outside. Their money was being eaten by the politicians, and it is against the entire political system. In Bangladesh, it was against the entire political system. But in India, it is only against the government. There is a difference between what happened in Nepal and what happened in Bangladesh. And let us not think that if the crowd is 5 lakhs, it will be regime change. That it is not 5 lakhs, it was in thousands, means that it is to bring down the reputation of the government and the leader, who is one of the most respected persons in the world. So qualitatively, the regime change means that you hit the government's credibility, that as if there is a big revolt going on in a democracy where the ruling party is in a minority, that it is leading a coalition government, and the opposition is a very large opposition, and still it has to fight in the streets. It's a paradox.
But let me draw your attention back to the issue which these students claim to be fighting. The students have come out to say that they have been suffering. There are many students who have died, who have committed suicide, at least 20 of them at last count, if I'm not mistaken, as a result of the despair that was created by the NEET leak. And NEET itself is, of course, a big issue even in Tamil Nadu, if not the rest of the country. Now, was this not a big lapse in our education system under this government? And therefore, they are saying that why is asking for accountability and for the resignation of Education Minister be termed as a regime change? Because they have cited past instances where there have been scandals, scams, acts of misgovernance where ministers have resigned from the central government, from state governments and various parts of the country.
If it is scam, the minister must resign. If it is something like a lapse, responsibility has to be fixed. This is where we use terms without knowing the meaning, for example, in those days when a railway accident took place, Lal Bahadur Shastri resigned. That kind of politics will not work today, because that was a single party government and a single party discipline. There was no opposition party. The party was accountable on its own, and the man set such high standards. Afterwards, when democracy evolved in India, the issue became who is responsible? And without fixing the responsibility, if the minister had been lax, then he must go. But not because a wrong thing happened. If wrong things happen, ministers have to resign. For example, you see the kind of these digital theft that is taking place in the banking system. It's of the order of 25,000 crores a year. Do you mean so the finance minister should be called upon to resign? Or the finance secretary, banking secretary should be called upon to resign? Or the Reserve Bank governor? See, we must be proportionate in understanding what the mischief. Let us assume neat paper has leaked out and thousands had benefited out of it, and the examination could not be conducted. And on the basis of the faulty examination, admissions are taking place. It is scam. But it is immediately corrected. And the entire thing was redone within a month, even before the agitation started. If death is the issue, in Tamil Nadu, in school final examinations, annually 10 to 12 people die. Do you mean to say the minister should resign?
But can you say justify?
We are just going out of proportion in understanding what is the content of the problem.
Right. But at a time when the students are agitating, leave aside the politics of the opposition, because the minister has in his response, I don't know if you've seen the post that he has put out, he has addressed the politics of the issue. He has targeted Rahul Gandhi for the quote-unquote shamelessly exploiting the students issue. But the point is, where is the accountability for the lapses? Where are the big reforms that need to be brought in, and accountability for what has happened of the streets of Delhi? Those are the issues that also need to be addressed at this point of time.
There are two issues. One, accountability is that immediately the examination was conducted and the students are on course. This is the most important thing, that they did not go on the basis of a wrong examination. That will be scam. So accountability is, where did the wrong thing take place? Do you mean to say it can be analyzed in days? It can be a matter discussed in parliament. The opposition must come out with evidence to show that these are all the areas where your examination system has failed, and the government will be on the back foot. By asking for a resignation, you are only settling the ego. This kind of ego battle has led to derailing of democracy in this country. We should ask for accountability. Yes, accountability means what? Then you go into where the wrong took place. You can say, no, it has to be done by such and such. We want to refer it to JPC. Understandable. Or refer it to Supreme Court, some SIT examination. Understandable. But to ask a minister to resign, it is going to set right the examination model?
Right. And I must ask you, since you referred to Rahul Gandhi a short while earlier, how do you see the politics of this playing out? Rahul Gandhi has finally taken the center stage. He was at the Lok Kalyan Marg gate, the rear gate of the Lok Kalyan Marg complex, 22 days after the hunger strike was initially announced. So how are you seeing this? We've seen also opposition political leaders, Akhilesh Yadav and others also coming into this entire issue. How do you see this issue playing out? And how do you see this being resolved? Is a debate in parliament perhaps the only way to resolve this? What is the way out of this kind of a deadlock?
First, we must understand the apolitical character of the movement has been exposed by politicians taking part in it. And I think Rahul would have behaved a little more dignified way. It is because the TV cameras are there, and of course, I saw in the Financial Times, as he's being crushed, that is the kind of photograph. Today, political activities have become like cine scenes. It's not good for either a mature democracy or for even evolving a mature leader. Narendra Modi was examined by the CBI. I saw the scene. He was just walking alone. Thousands of people were there. No shouting, nothing. That's a demonstration of one's confidence in handling the situation. I don't think Rahul has handled it in a mature manner. By going to the Prime Minister's office, home, what are you trying to convey? Tell me. Except that you hold the television screen for an hour. Yes, it has been politicized. It is now a political issue. There is no role for students. There is no role for youth. There is no role for Gen Z. It has become a political issue. Let it be handled. And if political parties believe streets are the better method, then let's them from the parliament. What are they in parliament for? In such a large number. It is not like during Mrs. Gandhi's time or Rajiv Gandhi's time when the opposition was countable. And when they were 300 and 400, it is not so. So I think we must also know, the media must also, in my view, give a reasoned view with a historical perspective as to how to handle such issues. In those days, editorial was there. Editorial used to be a considered opinion by the media, but TV media has taken over now. There is no considered opinion being given by any media, except that, there is a competitive populism even in the media debates. Why I am not participating in the media debate? That is one of the reasons why I am not participating. I hope you understand that.
Well, I hope you appreciate the fact that we have your considered view that we are featuring today, Mr. Gurumurthy. We'll have to leave it there.
Thank you.
We'll have to leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.